I keep telling myself that I'm only one person. I can only do so much at one time. And to be able to put one foot in front of the other is hard sometimes because, you feel like you are stuck in that one specific spot and can't move. And so you got to reach out to the people around you to help encourage you, talk through what you have going on. And, that's why I'm so thankful to have the people around me and specifically my wife to where like I have that person that knows what I'm going through, that knows like my daily process of the roller coaster of mental health. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Everything's Okay, a mental health podcast brought to you by Crazy Ant Media. Today, as we continue into this brand new year of 2025, we want to talk a little bit about how to manifest a mentally healthy 2025. We'll explore the mental health benefits and adaptability, discuss why it's often difficult, share strategies for this developing skill, and of course, breaking down real life scenarios. As always, I'm joined by my father in law and co host, Dustin. How are you doing?
What's up, man? Doing pretty good. Doing pretty good. Crazy weather. But dealing with that kind of. I mean, we're literally going. I don't know about you, but talk about adaptability. 75 and sunny to 31 and hardcore freezing rain. Like
Yeah.
within a day. It's insane. It's insane. But it's all good. It definitely keeps you on your toes, and that's what it's all about, right?
Most definitely, most definitely. And I'm honestly super happy we're coming back and doing this episode because, like, I don't know, man, since the beginning of the year, it's just been kind of a roller coaster of emotions. Just not like up and not happiness, sad, but it's just like, I don't know. I've been very mundane, very like, I'll have high moments, but then I'll have like low moments that'll keep me at a straight low line for
Yeah.
a while. So I mean it's weird like I don't know and it doesn't come out of nowhere either like or it doesn't stem from one specific thing I should say like it just comes out of nowhere. That's what I'm trying to say. It's very weird. It's very weird and it's I don't know what it is about this year or what's going on and because there's nothing bad going on in life, but it's just I don't know, I just haven't been feeling my normal peppy awesome self. So
Yeah.
I'm super glad to be back and talking about this because yeah, it's kind of wild.
Well, it's the universe at play. It's got a lot of stuff going on right now. If you believe in all the kind of like I don't know who believes in astrology and moons and all the different things if our listeners out there do or don't or whatever your belief system is, but there's definitely a weird energy right now, and it is definitely pulling you one way at one moment, pulling you the other way at another moment, and you're and trying to figure all that out. But it is good that we're kind of jumping into this one because we talk about this all the time. Manifesting what you want to happen, right? Because you are inevitably in control of how everything plays out. We talk about this constantly about how we're not in control all the time of what happens to us, but we are certainly in control of how we deal with what happens to us. And that's how you begin the process of manifesting what you want to happen in your life. It's by making decisions and making the right decisions that will get you where you're trying to go as opposed to taking you away from that. And that's kind of what we're talking about today, manifesting a mentally healthy spot. And doing that is because right, like we talked about this a couple of episodes ago with you set resolutions at the beginning of the year and you're gonna like dive into them and you're gonna change everything and it's gonna be the greatest thing ever and everything. Well, that never works, right? So one of the things we're going to be talking about today is the difference between that, the difference between resolutions and intentional goal setting. And just to kind of break that down for everybody, what that really means is like when you set a resolution, You're kind of making a firm decision to make a specific change. I'm going to lose 30 pounds this week or this month, kind of a thing. Where when intentional goal settings long term, you're laying out a path for yourself to align with what you believe in morally, mentally, physically. And then it's more about the long-term journey of getting there as opposed to, I'm going to do this, this, and this right now. Because typically that always fails, right? It's all about the intentional goal setting and getting to where you want to be and enjoying the journey of that. I think that's the key to starting to manifest not just a mentally healthy 2025, but mentally healthy journey in general, right?
Yeah, most definitely. And, it's hard too because you always try to set broad goals. You want to try to cover so many different things and about so many different aspects of your life that you want to accomplish, that you want to change. And so when you set vague, broad goals, like you think about all the different things. So you kind of have to narrow it
You
down
do.
between what you would like to see happen and what you're going to do, because it's a domino effect. Because
Oh,
once
without
you
doubt.
start doing the thing that you set your goal to, then the other things will kind of fall over or fall in line with what you're going through in life. And I think that's what's most important, to try to figure out what's the most important thing that you want to figure out, what you want to change, because sometimes it can be way more difficult than you're, or it can be way more easy than you are anticipating, because you think that it's going to be much more difficult because you are thinking about so many different things. But when you set your mind to one thing, that's when you can actually focus on what you want to change throughout your life. And sometimes that's easier said than done. We've been doing this show for what, 43 episodes,
Yeah.
and we talk a lot about a lot of different things, but that doesn't mean we have it all figured out, or that
No.
doesn't mean that we can't go back and readdress things,
No.
because yes, we are trying to say these things to help other people and help ourselves in the meantime, but that doesn't mean they get fixed after we record an episode. It helps us shed light on it. It helps us set those goals, but it doesn't in turn fix the problem. The only thing that can fix the problem is the amount of time and effort you spend trying to overcome whatever it is you're trying to overcome. So I think that's really important. Setting a goal that is very clear, very niche, very particular to you, and then figuring out how to move forward and try to just figure out what's going to make you happy. Because sometimes, like I said, when you get the broad goals, you get the vagueness that is life. Sometimes you don't know exactly how to start. So it's very important to, frame that up, write it down, like, take time throughout each day or each week, because I know stuff can get pulled into your life on a daily basis that you don't anticipate. So
Right.
when you
Right.
take time to think about what you actually want done, but then also adapting to what gets pulled into your life. Like, just try to hit it vaguely once a day, or like try to hit it hardcore once a week. It's hard to do. It's so hard to do. And I mean, like I said, it's easier said than done.
Well, one thing I like that you said there is about how we don't put what we're going through out there in an episode and then pretend like everything is perfect
Yeah.
afterwards, right? In fact, I don't know about for you, but for me, there's been several times where I thought I had made a lot of progress in a certain area of my mental health, and then we'll do an episode and it will spark something to make me realize I still need to do some more with that area that I thought we had already kind of addressed, because of something that we talk about on another episode. And so that happens all the time for me. But one of the things I like, we talk about intentional goal setting, and it's more focused on the journey as opposed to I'm going to do this, this, and this. But journeys are all about steps, y'all. Like, just start with a step. You don't have to like boom go right out and finish it all, right? And so one thing that works really well for me, and I wanted to kind of like talk about it because, and I know you do it as well, it's not just filling out the Google Calendar or your planner or whatever, but you use the terminology and I like it. It's framework. So if you guys haven't heard of this, there's what's called SMART, okay? That means when you're setting things up for yourself to try to accomplish, be it mental health, be it physical health, be it whatever it is that you're trying to do, be specific about what you're trying to do. That's the S. Measurable. What is my goal here? Like, how can I measure success or failure based on this? Make it achievable. Don't put something out there. I'm going to go from looking like Kevin James, to Mr. Olympia in 6 months. Not going to happen. Okay. So you got to make it achievable. Relevant. Don't set yourself up goals that make no sense for where you're trying to go in your life. Make it relevant to what you're actually trying to do in life and accomplish, and then set a time for it. Say, I want to lose this many pounds because I want to get healthier, and I'm going to do it by this date. And then take the steps necessary to get there. And so if you line it up within that framework, you're not trying to gun it all at once. You're not trying to say, I'm going to make these rapid changes and everything is going to, you're understanding that it's a journey, it's a process, but you're putting destinations on it. You're saying, I'm going to get to this certain spot by this certain time, and then I'm going to measure how successful I was. And I think the other critically important thing with staying mentally healthy and happy is if you get to that measured time point and your goal was drop 35 pounds and you dropped 28. Congratulate, celebrate the 28 pounds. I think that's the other thing that we mental health wise, people dive into. It's like, oh, well, I failed to get the full 35 pounds, but you lost 28. And that's a huge step towards the overall goal. And now you're much healthier on your journey than you were when you started that. So you got to celebrate the wins also. So when I say measure success or failure, remember one, failure is necessary for success, but not attaining exactly what you wanted doesn't always mean failure. It doesn't always mean you didn't succeed in what you want. And so I think that's the key thing to take away from all of this is setting clear intentional goals, right? That can really change your life, but over a long term, and make them relevant and meaningful. Because like sometimes just people throw out those resolutions and they make no sense for their life. It's like, what? Why are you trying to do that? Like, you don't even like that, or like whatever, It's got to be real. It's got to be true to who you are.
Yeah, staying true to who you are, I think that is a big, big thing because with everything that you have going on, whether that be small, at home, work, chasing your dream, whatever it may be, like if you feel like you lose your sense of self while you're in the process of doing whatever you're doing, then I feel like, your life gets shifted off balance and
Yeah.
it's hard to get back on balance. I mean, I remember starting at the beginning of this year thinking I had so many different things that I wanted to accomplish. And, not obviously we're in the second month of the year.
Yeah.
So we still have, so many more months to go, but it's still like the slow start. It always sucks because you feel like you're not accomplishing as much as you want to because internally you want it so quick, so fast, but that it's not how it works and it's not how life is set up to be. So when you're going through life and you set goals, you have to be understanding with yourself because
Mm-hmm.
we are very hard on ourselves. We want to achieve the best out of life that we possibly can because we only have one to live that we know of. But it's one of those things where it's very difficult. It's very difficult because you always feel like something gets shifted to the back burner.
Always.
Like for example, like right now, having school, with having a day job, with having the podcast, with having chasing our dreams as filmmakers and television makers. And it's a lot. And I feel like it's so hard to try to put 100 of myself in every single one of those situations. And I always feel like something unintentionally gets pushed to the back burner unintentionally just because there's not enough time in the day and I don't have enough energy to do those things. So that it's very freaking difficult. So to try to navigate my life and try to balance everything, it is very hard. And I feel like even when I do the weekly scheduling, because I make, a business one, this is what I want to get accomplished throughout the week. My personal one, this is what I want to get accomplished throughout the week. Talking about testing, talking about studying, talking about researching different things for film and television. It all becomes very overwhelming. And again, I feel like things get pushed to the back burner, but I keep telling myself that I'm only one person. I can only do so much at one time. And to be able to put one foot in front of the other is hard sometimes because you feel like you are stuck in that one specific spot and can't move. And so you got to reach out to the people around you to help encourage you, talk through what you have going on. And, that's why I'm so thankful to have the people around me and specifically my wife to where like I have that person that knows what I'm going through, that knows like my daily process of the roller coaster of mental health. Like it's crazy. And to try to navigate what I'm going through and to articulate it and put it into words is hard to do sometimes. And especially when, you're looking back at your goals and seeing where you are now, it's hard to put that out there and talk about what you feel like you're failing at. And yeah, it gets to be a tornado of a mental health situation.
Well, I think the key thing there that uh, really listening to what you said is when you've got this, you've got this, you've got this, you've got this, and you're trying to put all your attention, all attention. The thing to remember is that, and this and we hear this terminology a lot now, especially in our industry, right? Linear, linear, linear. It's all linear. It's not all linear. Life is not linear. It doesn't happen in order. The only thing that happens in order is you're born and you die. Everything in between is all over the place, okay? So if you've got this going on and you got this going on and you got this going on, it's okay if you were focused here, but then all of a sudden you're over here. And then, oops, no, I've got some time so I can do this over here. That's okay. You don't have to, just because you had it written down, doesn't mean that you have to do, I've got to do this, and this before I can do this, and this, or before I can, no. It's if you have some extra time and it makes more sense to do this, do this. That's how life works. It's okay to not be in a straight and narrow line. In fact, I think we get in trouble when we do try to be in a straight and narrow line of it has to be this way at this time on this day and that. It's just not how life works. And because like you said, sometimes things are thrown into the mix unexpected. Well, that's definitely going to throw you off of any type of a straight line, a linear line. That's going to have to make you adjust a little bit. I think one of the things, though, that's key in being able to adjust like that is making things habit, right? Getting into a routine of doing the same things. That doesn't mean at the same time every day. It doesn't mean in the same place every day. It simply means setting yourself up the routine of habitually doing what you're supposed to do every day. And once something becomes a habit, then you see progress, right? And I think that's a lot of people fail at that because they think it has to be linear. Again, I'm trying to combine the two. Being habitual doesn't mean necessarily having to be linear. It's if you and I talk about this all the time. As long as you accomplish everything on the list, doesn't matter when, where, or how, as long as it's accomplished. And that is the habit, accomplishing everything on the list. That's your habit. It doesn't mean I have to do this at this time, this at this time, this at this time, every day, consistently the same all the time. Don't have to do that. If you do, your mental health is going to just fry. It's going to go nuts. But it doesn't mean don't set yourself some habits, right? Because like I said, life, once it becomes a habit, then it's just good. Then you're in it, you know it, you're doing it every day, you're feeling good about it, and you're taking positive steps forward. And I think that's really key because, it's those type things that lead us down the road to success. And you brought it up, and we both do this all the time. We journal. We try to hold each other accountable for things that we say we need to get done. And if one of us is slacking, we kind of say, "Hey, what you got going on? We got to kind of get this done," kind of a thing. And then I haven't incorporated this one into it, but sure, maybe habit trackers. I didn't even know there was such a thing, but maybe we'll incorporate it into it. But I will say, and I know you speak highly of it too. Journaling is so critically important to my mental health. It's literally, when I say accountability, it's not just you and I holding each other accountable, or Emily holding you accountable, or a significant other holding a. It's when you go back and you read your journal, you're holding yourself accountable. You're writing down, what did I do today? Oh, uh-oh, I didn't do what I was supposed to do today, or maybe I did this or that. So a journal is almost like a log of self accountability, if you will, which is really good for mental health. I mean, if you can't hold yourself accountable, how are you going to hold anybody else accountable for what they're trying to do, right?
Oh, most definitely. And that's interesting too, because like I've never thought about going back and reading my old journal
Oh,
entries. I've
yeah.
never done that before. So yeah, that'll be something that I should start doing. But yeah, I mean, holding yourself accountable to continue making sure that you're staying on the same progression line, I think is very important because, there's so many different things that can happen throughout life to where you don't realize they get put on the back burner,
Yeah.
like we're just talking about. And I mean, we're also talking about trying to figure out things you do in your everyday life that are unintentional habits while attaching and chaining to another habit that you want to start, a healthy habit.
Mm-hmm.
Like, for example, I love listening to podcasts. I have so many different podcasts that I listen to on a daily or weekly basis. And sometimes I can't find enough time to listen to all of them. But because I have not been good about exercising at all since, like, I don't even know, the past 3 months, I would say. But the best thing that when I was exercising was podcasting and walking at the same time. That
Yeah.
I mean, that was just so perfect because I felt like I was in a conversation while getting things done. It got to the point where I wasn't even thinking about the exercise I was doing because I was so engulfed in the conversation that I was listening to that I accomplished more than what I was actually anticipating doing. So kind of like stacking habits together
Yeah.
with old and new, I think is also very important, trying to navigate how to approach these different things. And like you said, they don't have to be at the same time every
Nope.
day. I know a lot of people want to subscribe and get into more of like meditation and things like that. I mean, that could be as simple as after you brush your teeth, doing it for 5 minutes after you brush your teeth, or hell, like brush your teeth and meditate at the same time. Just close your eyes and set a timer.
Yeah.
Like, you're supposed to brush your teeth for like at least 2 minutes anyway. If you brush them for five, shit, your shit's gonna be extra white. So I mean, there's different things like that to try to like chain things together to form habitual things to better yourself in the long run. And I think that's very important. And I mean, sustainable habits that are built over time, don't expect an overnight change
No.
because like it takes time to gradually lose the weight or gradually get back into a healthy mental health or a healthy mental space, and to be able to not be in a rut can be easier said than done sometimes. Because I mean, I know I've subscribed to this a lot of the time too, and it is a brain rotting time
Mm-hmm.
basically, where you feel like you're just sitting on the couch and scrolling through TikTok because you don't want to concentrate on anything else. And it, in some ways, it does help, but in other ways, it hurts you in the long run because you are just sitting there in a chair. And depending on what your job is, if you are like a 9 to 5 desk job, and then you come home and then sit on your couch for the next 3 or 4 hours before you go to bed, just scrolling through TikTok, that means the majority of the day you were not on your feet. You were
Yeah.
not moving
Yeah.
around. And that, is case for possible blood clots. Like that's a case for more depression and mental health anguish because you don't feel like you're getting anything done. And where does your day go? And all of these different things. So these are a couple of different things that you want to work on while also being okay with yourself and letting yourself take that time to progress throughout the day and throughout the week to get to the point where eventually you'll be where you want to be. But again, remember that it does not happen overnight.
No. And So going to the brain rotting and things like that, I think one of the key things to remember when you're trying to manifest positive things in your life is to stay away from negative stuff, right?
Yeah.
It's key. It's absolutely key. If you know such and such stresses you out, don't do it. Don't entertain it. Don't give it the time, because if it's going to drain you of positive energy, if it's going to drain you of happiness, right? And keeping you from, then don't do it. Even if it's something that you regularly do, and that it's something you feel like you have to do, if you are aware that it is draining your energy, it is making you unhappy, then say no to it. Just get away from it, because I think manifestation means willing something into being. And you can't do that if you're completely drained. You just can't do that. You have no energy to will anything into anywhere if you're unable to have the energy to do that. And I think it's so critically important. And you and I know, last year especially, and we've made it a goal this year not to do, is sometimes looking way too far ahead instead of just living in the present, focusing on today, right? And I think that's also key, because when you try to lay so much out on your plate, and you start to focus on this and this, 6 months from now, that can be a little overwhelming. That can really start to play on you, because you're like, and on that same note, I feel like you start to neglect the present when you're living in the future. And you can't do that, because life is the present. It's not the future. That's the journey, but you're living today. And so when you start to lose focus on that, that's when the energy drains. That's when you start to lose sight of what's happening. And so any hope of manifestation of positivity or things happening in your life goes out the window. That's just not going to happen. So my thought process on it all is stay in the present and learn to get rid of things that are not good for you. Because we all have them. We all have things we know are not good for us, that drain us mentally, physically, just emotionally. But we hold on to them for some reason. They have to be a part of our life. But here's the key, guys. It doesn't have to be. You just got to let that shit go, because it's bringing you down, and you got to just let it go. You got to be brave enough to say, this isn't serving me and where I'm trying to go. So I'm just going to put it aside, and I'm going to let it go, because it's not serving me right now. And I think that is key in order to be able to manifest a healthy, happy mental health, physical health life, is to understand when to put the negative away. It's just, you have to do it.
Yeah, and I think sometimes too, and it's kind of weird to say because it's a double entendre, but sometimes we're comfortable in the negative space. Sometimes we're
Yes.
comfortable being down and out and not happy with where life is and what life is happening to you. Like, and so to change that thought process and to change, getting up and getting out and being active and trying to navigate your life and take the reins of your life. It can be very difficult, but you have to realize that, the thing that you're feeling right now is only temporary. I mean, there's always that freaking Tom Hanks quote from the Hollywood Reporter Roundtable, and he heard it from somebody else, but this too shall pass. But you have to let it pass. You have
Yeah.
to get up to make it past. So part of it is completely out of our control, but part of it is in our control, like you were saying at the top of this episode, to where, you are inevitably the captain of your body, your brain, your life. So wherever you want it to go, you have to direct it that way. If you have to go 45 miles east, you better fucking go 45 miles east, or find, that perfect 35 miles and be like, okay, I'm happy with where I'm at right now. This is nice, sunshiny. It's not hurricane season, so it's probably okay here. But to be able to keep checking in with yourself. That's
Yeah.
also very important because once you don't check into yourself with yourself, that's when things start becoming overwhelming and you don't even realize why. It's because you're not communicating with your own body to try to make yourself happy or healthy or go anywhere. So I think that's very important. And if you want more tools to do that, there's all sorts of different resources out there. There's other mental health podcasts. There's, on social media, even though social media can be a brain rot thing, but it also can be used for good. So there's accounts that will help you with daily affirmations. There will be people that will be preaching, and maybe you find comfort in religion, or maybe you need to see a therapist. Though
Yeah.
finding positive outlooks to help you move forward, I think is the most important thing. No matter what source it is, that's your own path, but you have to find what is best for you and not the person next to you. I think that's what's most important.
Oh, without doubt, without doubt, and because people pleasing is the worst thing you can do for your mental health. Plain and simple. If you are a people pleaser, you are probably miserable. You have to look inward and figure out what makes me happy first before you start worrying about fixing everybody else's problems. And newsflash, you can't fix everybody else's problems. So you need to focus on yourself. You're totally right for that. And I just, it's so important to remember that because, well, and I like what you said there too. It's seeking help, whether that's a pastor, whether that's an actual therapist, whether that, whoever that may be, there's nothing wrong with admitting that you're struggling a little bit and you could use some help. You guys, that is, for anybody who doubts this, that is a sign of strength. You are strong in being able to ask for help. It is not a sign of weakness. It is not a sign of shame. You should never be ashamed or feel weak that you have to ask for somebody's help. It's what it's all about, because this is key also with manifesting mental health and happiness. It's all connected, guys. It's all connected. The universe is connected. We are all connected. Our energy, our movement is all connected. If I make a move, that move inevitably is going to affect someone else along that ripple. And so I have to make sure that I'm making the right moves. And if I need help to figure that out, that's okay. Because inevitably, like I said, something you do will inevitably at some point affect somebody else. And the whole goal is for all of us just to make it work, to be happy and live this awesome life. So you don't want to keep putting negative ripples out there amongst the web because you're going to be messing somebody else up. So you got to figure that out. And if you need a little help, well, you need a little help, and that's okay. You guys, speaking of, because you brought it up, Logan, it's like the one reason that we really started this as much as we put it out there was, because you and I had talked about it, and you just made the decision, let's do it. If we can help just one person by them hearing what we're going through and knowing that they're not alone and maybe shifting their direction of thought on how to approach things, then that's what it's really all about, guys. That's how we all move forward. That's how we help each other. And we do get a lot of response. We get a lot of listeners. We get a lot of people that are like finding us and going, wow, you guys helped me here, you helped me there. And so we have dozens of emails, guys, and we tried to find a couple that were relevant to what we were talking about today. And we had a couple that were just great. We had one, Alex. He's a 32-year-old male. We're not going to give too much away from him, last name or anything, but he's out on the West Coast, California. And he wrote to us and said, hey, Logan and Dustin, this year I've been thinking a lot about how to set goals that actually stick. See, that's what we're talking about. New Year's resolutions don't normally stick. He says, I tend to go all in at the start of the year only to burn out by March. This time I want to approach things differently, focusing more on my mental health rather than just external achievements. Do you have any advice on balancing ambition with self-care? I feel like I need to accomplish big things, but I also don't want to sacrifice my mental health and well-being in doing it. Yeah, you want to address that? Because that's the key, right? Like, how do I make these big, bold moves without sacrificing something mentally or physically, right?
Well, most definitely. And I mean, there's no timetable for your own personal growth. You don't have to do that. That doesn't have to be within a calendar year or
Nope.
many years down the line, just as long as you're showing some sort of progression. I think that's what's most important. But you have to make the start. I think that's the hardest thing sometimes, showing up for yourself and being at the starting line for yourself. Because if you don't do that, then no one else is going to do it for you. There's not going to be a magical Glinda witch that comes and gives you three wishes, and that changes overnight. So you have to show up for yourself first and foremost, and then be patient with yourself because you don't have to accomplish it all within 3 months. You just have to keep going, and you don't even have to set a deadline, especially if it's health related. Like, unless you have like an event you want to set a deadline for, what have you, that's fine. But if it's health related and you just want to start, just start. That's the most important thing. You don't
For
have
sure.
to set a deadline. Just start so you can start seeing progress when you get to that 3 months. And if you do 5 days the first time, 5 days the first week and 3 days the next week, that's okay because you're still starting. You're still starting every single day with that mentality, or every single week with that mentality to keep moving forward.
I agree with all of that. I think that's great advice, and you can be ambitious without sacrificing yourself in the process. You can be ambitious and not the key is not to burn out, right? Because you really can't. You gotta take a day. Like Logan said, 5 days one week, you're only doing three the next. That's fine. You're no less ambitious. You're just taking a little rest, and that's okay. It's so critical. It's so critical. I think if you forget that, you're in trouble. You're in big trouble. Sarah from New York, 27. She says, "Hi, Dustin and Logan. Last year I struggled with self doubt and overcommitting to things that drained me emotionally. This year, I want to be more intentional about setting boundaries, practicing gratitude, and making time for the things that bring me joy. One thing I struggle with is staying consistent. I start strong but lose motivation when things get hectic. Do you have any tips on how to keep up with positive habits throughout the year?" Yeah, what we were just talking about ditching the things that drain you emotionally. If you know these things are draining you emotionally, that means they are not serving you in a positive way and it's time to let them go. I know that can be difficult sometimes, but it is the right move, and you will see that when you do that how much stress comes off of you and how much more joy you are having. The other thing would be setting boundaries, learning to say no. That's critical when you say practicing gratitude. That's all the way back to the top of the show when Logan and I were talking about celebrate the successes, even if they're not everything that you attempted to do. Because gratitude in the things that you do accomplish is important. Even if it isn't what you initially set out, you still made progress, and you need to be grateful for that and the things that you did do. That's critically important. And I think if you do that, that will start to lay the groundwork for your positive habits. And you should wake up every day and with a mantra or a positive affirmation. When you're brushing your teeth, look in the mirror and say, "I'm proud of you today for doing this." Something as simple as that. A little gratitude for yourself about, "Hey, I kicked ass yesterday and I'm really proud of myself for that." If you wake up and get in the habit of giving yourself a little self affirmation every morning, boom. You'll see how much that does to make your happiness just explode. It really does. I do that every day. It's like, what did I accomplish yesterday that I'm really proud of today? And if you just get in the habit of that, I'm telling you, it will move worlds. I'm telling you.
Yeah, most definitely. And Sarah, I am right there with you of overcommitting to things like it, because you're a person who has wide interests and want to accomplish so many different things. So it is hard sometimes, but you have to figure out what is most important to you at that specific moment that you want to commit to something, or if you feel like, maybe there'll be another opportunity later down the line. So you always have to, like I said, just check in with yourself. I
Yep.
think that's very, very freaking important. And I mean, of course, we want to know everybody else's thoughts. Please be sure to email us at info@crazyantmedia.com. We want to have a conversation. I think it'd be really cool to have a listener come on the show and talk about, their
Absolutely.
journey with mental health and how they try to overcome things and New Year's resolutions and all the different topics that we talk about, because just having that conversation is the starting line. Talking about it is the starting line to moving forward and trying to better yourself for the rest of your life, because like I said, you only get one, so you have to try to enjoy it. You have to try to find the sunshine and rainbows at the end of the rainbow. But yeah, I think that it's hard. It really is, and it's easier said than done sometimes. But you just have to keep waking up every day, like Dustin said, and motivating yourself. And sometimes, like I said, it's easier said than done. But I just we want to know what is your vision boards? What's your goal setting reflections? We'd love to see what you are manifesting this year. So be sure to at us at our Twitter handles or the podcast Twitter handles or Instagram or any of the places, because it's very important and we want to help as much as we can. Because, like we said, if this podcast helps anybody throughout the year, throughout their journey, we want to do that. It only takes one person to change somebody's life.
It does.
So, I mean, a couple of different things that you could try to find, resources that you could have. Some books like Atomic Habits by James Clear or The Power of Now by Eckhart
Yes.
Tolle. So be sure to check those out. And of course, apps like Headspace and Fabulous. Fabulous is kind of like a habit building app. So that might be interesting to look into. And then, of course, journal prompts as well. What brings me the most peace in my daily routine? And or what are three small things I can take towards my goal? What are three small steps that I can take towards my goal? So those are a few different things to try to look at. But yeah, I mean, like I said, definitely needed this episode. I'm sorry if I felt a little down, but like I said, man, this month and a half has just been really weird. Like the vibe has just been really weird. We've had, like you said, a lot of stuff happening with like political climate that can be taxing and a lot to look at. And then all of these airplane crashes, helicopter crashes, that's really weird. And that's a lot. And yeah, just life is really weird. But, we just, like I said, have to keep putting one foot in front of the other. But it's okay to let things weigh on you. Just don't let it take enough space out of your life to where you're not happy.
I would agree with that wholeheartedly, and it's interesting because throughout this episode, talking about trying to manifest a happy 2025 and setting habits and doing these things to move forward in a happy, mentally healthy way, one thing kept coming up, and that was being emotionally drained, being lacking energy, being burnt out. And so we're excited, guys, because in a couple of weeks we're going to continue this conversation a little bit, and we're actually going to highlight the difference between being tired and actual emotional burnout, and why rest doesn't fix that part of it. You can sleep all day long and ain't gonna fix the emotional burnout. So we're gonna talk about that. It'll be fun to kind of continue the conversation and see how the two correlate together. I'm excited to get some listener responses and see how they feel about how that works together, because it just seemed like it was coming up throughout this entire episode about how I want to do this but I'm so tired, or I'm feeling drained, or this is just causing my mind to go numb. And it's kind of like, so we got you, we're gonna address that one too.
For sure, for sure. Well, thank you everyone for listening today. We appreciate all of your love and support. Of course, this podcast is dedicated to anyone who's ever had an uphill battle or is having an uphill battle with their own mental health journey. Sometimes we win and sometimes we lose, but the most important thing is to always keep getting back up. And remember that we here at Crazy Ant Media are here for you. If you have any thoughts, comments, concerns, please feel free to reach out to us at info@crazyantmedia.com. Follow us on Instagram, X, Threads, at Everything's OKP. And of course, subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube to this podcast. But until next time, guys, we really appreciate you guys. You are amazing. Thank you so much. And remember, everything's okay.